Welcome back. In this lesson, we would like to consider something very important, and that is looking into the components of a quadratic equation. When we talk about the components of a quadratic equation, it's important we state the general form of a quadratic equation first, which is general form. Let's remind ourselves again is ax squared plus bx plus c. That's the general form of a quadratic expression or equation as this. So now when we're talking about the components, we're talking about the components called A, B, and C. So let's see how we can identify them if we see such in our problem. So for example one, we'd like to consider a very simple case. Let's say a very simple case. So here we're given a quadratic equation such as say 3x squared maybe minus 5x plus 2 equal to 0. Just assume you're given something like that. Now, how do you identify the various components of this equation? Now, our A can clearly see, if we're comparing this with the general form, the coefficient of x squared, which is called the A component, in this case, our A is 3. B, if we're comparing B in this case, is minus 5. And C comparatively is given as 2. This is example 1. Let's consider example 2. Let's consider something else. Example 2, a case where the middle term is missing. Let's say the middle term is missing. When we talk about the middle term, we are simply referring to the component called B. That's the coefficient of x. So say you're given something as x squared minus 9x equal to minus 9 equal to 0. Here you clearly see that if we were to pick this, the component called A, if you were to compare with this, A here, since there is nothing here, is 1. Because 1 times any term will leave you with that term. So our A here is 1. Then how about our B component? There is nothing attached to x, so there is no x here. So it means our B is not part of this equation. It means it is nothing. That's 0. 0 in maths means nothing. It is not actually settled here. And our C, which is a constant here, is minus 9. This equation can be rewritten, or we can write it as x squared plus, what's there for x? I don't know. It was not given. I say it is 0, x, nothing, minus 9 equal to 0. So this equation and this, it is one and the same thing. Now let's consider something for example 3. Example 3. We have considered a case, a very simple case where all the components are there. Now we've considered a case where the middle term is actually missing. That's the B component. Let's also see when the constant is missing. Constant is missing. So if you're given something as say x squared plus 7x, or let me just this equal to 0, just assuming that you're given something of this nature. Now it is clear that, let me say 2 here at least, it is clear that here our A is, if we're comparing with the general form again, everything we make reference to the general form. So this and this, here we have A here. So here our A, we can say A is 2. The component B, that's the coefficient of x in this case, B is 7, and C, there is no constants. There is no constant. So C is 0. So we can decide to write this problem as 2x squared plus 7x plus 0. If really wants it to be expressed in the general form or to appear just like the general form. So those are the three instances of how we can identify the components of quadratic equation. So in our next lesson, we will look at how to solve quadratic equation problems using factorization method.